going to interview you again and ask you about some of the case studies that you've shared with me before, because that's a knack of yours. You're a bit of a skill there in helping people to make the right decisions and get a good price.
Well, I don't know. Yes and no. So because, as you know, Lorraine, I've got other business interests. So I've got a marketing, advertising, graphic design business. I've had 25 years. I've got a cafe and I do the business broking and a few other different things. So real estate for me is just, and it sounds like the old cliche, but it's a bit of a passion. It's something that integrates with some other businesses. So I'm able to sort of plug clients in and with integrated services. So I'm not a door knocker or an ambulance chaser when it comes to what we do. It's friends, families, and referrals. We do a little bit of marketing, but we don't. We're not. When I praise a property for somebody, I'm not going to mess them around and tell them that they're going to get when I think they're going to get that. I'll just pretty much where they're at. And then it's up to them to take it or leave it. So we probably lose some appraisals there because another agent might turn around and say, well, look, we're going to get you this and rah, rah, rah. And then as soon as they've listed it, they're straight away pushing them down on price. I just don't have the time or the effort for that. I'd rather just play a straight bet and do the right thing. And in some cases, we have had, obviously really good results with getting people good prices. But that's not necessarily smoke screens and mirrors. That's just where their property was worth a lot. Someone's prepared to pay for it.
I guess I might have phrased that a little bit wrong there, or didn't give the whole picture when I was saying you do good things for people. I guess from what I was listening to you before was you managed to do good things for people because your life doesn't depend on the sale. So you 100%. Can do the right thing by people. You're not chasing the dollar.
No, exactly. And when you've got to sort of, if you're in a situation where you've got to lie awake and at night worrying about what you said or did, that's not a place that I've ever had to be in my life. But it's not. It's not. You can get some short-term gains if you want to try and mess people around, but long-term you're not going to be there doing what you're doing. So that's the approach I've had, and it seems to work. Touch wood. Overall. But I don't know. Some of the stories, like I think the recent sale that we had, which was nice. It was a client I've actually. When I first, so I am the licensee, and decided to add real estate into our offering instead of I just became pretty much started my own business, if you like, in real estate, good, bad, or indifferent. And one of the very first people that I was able to contact, and it was 7 years ago, and I went around and in actual fact, I would have had probably over a period of 7 years, maybe 20 phone calls, just touching base and trying to list it. And I listed, which I obviously didn't do a very good job, but I listed twice with different agents and weren't able to sell. And then I'd touch base, so I had that go. And anyway, finally they decided to list, and I sat down, and the gentleman had his wife there, and she said straight away, no, that's what we want. We want to list with you, and it's fantastic. I said, well, this is the issue. I should have been sitting down with you the whole time. Anyway, we ended up selling it, and we got, I think it was around about $70,000 more than where they thought they would be, and that was to do with market influences more than my ability. But the reality was we got that, and that was just rewarding because it was over such a long period of time, touching base with somebody and just giving them updates, telling where they're at, seeing the property listed, so asking them how their service went with the other agents, and to actually finally get the listing and to kick the goal was really cool. And then I think it was about a week later, I ended up having to, stupidly, because I can't say no, well, no, because I often helping their bloody house. So we got a truck, and I was moving their house over to where I think they bought in Aussie Park in Jundana, and but that was, I enjoy that sort of stuff. It was it was a bit like a game of chess over a long period of time, and again, from that you get a listing because the people across the road get the story from the people you sell with, and then when they want a list, they come and talk to you and stuff like that. So it slowly perpetuates. But those that happens from time to time, and sometimes situations where if I won't tell them what they want to hear, and that's possibly what would have happened with them early days, sort of that they want to hear something that's not necessarily going to be the reality, then all they're going to do is put their property on the market, pay for their advertising. In some cases, people pay for auction fees and all those sorts of things. And if you don't get the result, then they've wasted that money and that time, and then they can't put their property on the market for another year or two because it feels like a bit stale. And they end up paying for it long term anyway. So I don't want to be part of the process of delivering bad news. I'd rather just tell them where they're at, and then if we're in a situation where we can over deliver on that, that's fantastic. Rather than try and paint them a picture of over delivering and then having to bring them back where the market probably is. Yeah. So it is what it is.
It is. Now, Bruce, you offer free appraisals. And I'm going to share this in the District32 members group. So how can people get in contact with you for that, or to talk to you about that?
Well, look, Crush Realty is the name of the business, so they can just send me a link, and in probably around about 70% of the circumstances, just through the way that the online what we use for appraisals. So there's probably the process of appraisal is quite an important one to talk through. But what will happen in the first instance, let's just say you had a 2-bedroom apartment in East Perth. Well, I can virtually, without even seeing the property, give you a fairly good idea on what that property was worth straight up. We use a third party, which is called CoreLogic. So CoreLogic gives us the ability to go through and do a CMA, which is a comparable market analysis of that property in a certain radius. So when you've got a lot of properties that are like for like, so a 2-bedroom apartment in East Perth in a complex, well, we can gather a lot of information of what's been on the market. So ultimately, we want to know what's sold on the market recently and what's on the market currently. And then you can get a fairly good price. Where it's a little bit trickier for appraisals is when you're in sort of rural type settings, or you're in an older suburb where a 3x2 can look like 4 different type of houses. It could be a different age, it could be different size blocks, it could be all sorts of things. And your zoning of those blocks and potential will come into it. So we put a little bit more time in those properties to get the appraisals correct. But in most instances, what I'll do is do a CMA report, which is a comparison market analysis, and we'll do a CoreLogic appraisal as well, and that will give us near as damn it on 70 to 80% of the properties. And then if there's any things that we need to look at a little bit further, then I'll be walking the property and doing a little bit more sort of in-depth sort of analysis. But it's a free service. The actual appraisal document is around about 20 odd pages, and it will not just give the homeowner the comparable analysis, which would be, there might be 20 properties over the last 12 months that have sold that are comparable. So it'll list those properties. It'll list how much they started on the market for and how much they finally sold for. Same with stuff that's on the market, but it'll also go into further things like, demographics, how many people are in the suburb, what the income levels are, how many people are owner occupiers over the renters. So that's, for those who are sort of stats geeks, that's really interesting because, even if you're not looking to sell, you've now got a datum point. So at the current date of what the property was like and all the other demographic type data around your property. And it's just good to have in your top drawer in the study. And in 5 years' time or 3 years' time, when the market moves one way or another, then you just give us a call, and then we'd run another report for you, and then you can sort of see where your properties move. So that takes me, once we've done the initial appraisal, which again, it's not rocket science and it's not that onerous. So it's not like I'm not going to pretend it takes me hours and hours and hours. In that 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom in East Perth, I'd be able to give you a fairly good report within 20 minutes, emailed straight to you. And then you've got that, and then every year or so, when you decide that you want to have an update, because I've got the existing information, it's a 5-minute job, and it's just nice to know. And especially when the market's turning the way it has in the last 2 or 3 years, it's nice for people to get a bit of an understanding of how their assets are performing.
Okay, Bruce, Thank you very much. Thank you for the update, the insights, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thank you very much for sharing your time today.
Have a great Chrissy.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye.